Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to route out this gnome. It could be a Christmas gnome or just a general all year round kind of gnome. We'll see as the paint goes on towards the end. Now the idea, you could actually just cut this out with a scroll saw, route out the thin lines there, put a bit of black paint on, sand it down, and then paint the individual colours, and that little project would be complete. Nice simple one. Today we're going to make it just a little bit different. We're going to do it in 5 levels. So we'll start off at level number 1, which we'll leave alone. Number 1 or 0 level, that will be the nose. I've done the actual circle on top of the hat as well. So we'll leave those alone. We'll drop down to number 2 level, which will be this one for the hat. Then we'll lower the route a bit more for number 3, and then we'll lower it again for number 4. And you guessed it, we'll lower it again for number 5. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it'll be on those different levels. Hopefully just give a bit more than having just one straight piece and routing out the thin lines on their own. Now the couple of ways to find out your levels, obviously it depends on the thickness of wood. I'm just using fencing wood today. Really cheap, nasty stuff, but it sands up really nice. You spend a couple of minutes just to sand that down. It doesn't have to be too fantastic. We're only smoothing it on so we can transfer the template. Remember, all this is going to be routed off apart from the nose and the little bobble on top of his hat. Now the way I do things, I made myself a little, would you call that a jig, a template or something? And you can see there, 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 different levels we're going for, and obviously 5 being the top one. So you can imagine that circle being the nose, which we're going to leave alone, as I've just said. We can set the route a bit to number 1, like so. If I just find you one, we'll set the CNC bit to number 1, and then we would route out the hat. And then once that's done, we'll come back again, set it number 2, which will be the beard, obviously. Number 3 on my template. Number 3 for this one, number 4, and down and down and down till you get to the end one. And that's exactly the same thickness as that piece of wood is there. Another option would simply just to mark it off on the side. You can just about see that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So hat, beard, body, boots. And there are your 4 different levels that we're going to work on. So there's your little guideline there. Or if you want something that you can leave to one side for another day, make a little simple one like that. And there's our 4 little depths. There's not a lot in it. If I can just get the Dremel piece, I would say that's literally about, I'm struggling to get this in focus, I do apologise. There we go. That's literally about 3mm in between. And that just leaves us enough thickness there at the bottom to allow the boots to have some kind of thickness to it. As always for me, we've popped on our template. We've put on our bit of carbon paper underneath and literally just drawn around that. It takes minutes to do. And there's our nice image for us to play with today. That way we can use that one over and over again. And we can modify the hat and do it all for an all year round kind of project. Okay, we've got our template on. We'll keep that one to one side. We're going to need it again. Now you have 2 options of doing this. One, you could do all your routing out first. I will start with the deepest area to remove. That way it just leaves you more surface to go on each time. And then we'll raise it up, like I say, to number 4. We'll do the body. So we've still got this area to run on. We'll raise up again, do the beard. Raise it up again, do the hat. And we'll leave the nose and the bauble alone. Now the way I prefer to do it is to actually cut it out first on a scroll saw. You could route it all out first and then cut it out. I just find it easier to follow these lines with a scroll saw. And then we'll put it back inside the frame. If you're not too happy with moving about, you can put a bit of wood on the back there, thin piece, and just tack it on. Nobody's going to see it. Just keep it in place. And then we can still have that framework to put the router on, and it gives a bit more room. And then when we come to route out these areas, like the feet, we can literally just come to the edge, no problem whatsoever, instead of actually concentrating more and having to draw around them first. Because we've already pre-cut it out with the scroll saw, we can just come off the edge, and hopefully once we remove it all, we'll have a nice shape all the way around. Okay, let's cut this out on the scroll saw first, and then we'll go on to the bits when we come to use them. Just before we cut this out on a scroll saw, we'll just take a couple of minutes to talk about the different blades available for anybody that's new to scrolling. You do get a basic blade. This is what they call a pin blade, literally because it has small pins at either end, and they just clip onto your basic saw. When you put the blade in the saw, you want the blade to feel smooth on the way down, and you want it to feel rough on the way up. That way you know you've got your blade in the right way. And when it's on the saw, you want the teeth facing you, and you push the wood into the blade like so. These are more cheaper basic scroll saws. This will work fantastic for this one today, as it is all outset cutting, so there wouldn't be any issue whatsoever. If you're doing a lot of intricate inside work where you have to draw small pilot holes, I've actually drawn one on here if I can find it, something like that, and you've got to feed this blade through, you will struggle with this one to get through small holes like that if you're doing an inside cut. So they've come out with pinless blades, obviously no pins on, and they will just fit into your little holes a lot easier. Same as the pin blades, you want them smooth on the way down, rough on the way up, and the teeth facing toward you. There is different types of pinless blade, saber tooth, reverse tooth, the list goes on. Basically just find one that you're comfortable with. Now I prefer to use these spiral blades. They're actually round in shape, and the teeth rotate all the way around like a spiral, you guessed it. They go in the same way as the other ones, so you want them smooth on the way down and rough on the way up. The good thing about spiral blades, they will cut in any direction. So if you're doing larger projects where you're struggling to get the big piece, obviously not today with this little 15-inch one, you could put that on, set that into that hole there that we're going to do. If I just turn this around quickly, we will put that into that hole. That's what they call a pilot hole. You feed the blade through, and we can literally just go from left to right and cut that out like so, all the way around without basically even turning that wood. Whereas if you use a pinless blade or a pin blade, you would have to start that in the hole like so, and you'd have to feed that there, turn this wood to go up there, turn it again down there, turn it, and turn it, and it's just a lot of work and effort. Some people are fantastic on them. I'm not one of them. So I'll stick to my spiral blades. We'll cut this out, and then we'll go on to the routing side of things. Let's cut this out now. Right, we've made it all the way around with our spiral blade. As you can see, that's cut out, no problem. A lot of people don't like these spiral blades, but I certainly have no issues with them. Now remember, we want to keep our framework intact on there like so. That just gives us a bit more of a surface area for our router to run on like that. If that was removed, the router could just get a little bit wobbly. If you find it's a little bit too loose for you, you can get yourself a clamp like so, and if you just pop that on there, squeeze it together, and that's nicely firm now for your router to run on. And as we come from the bottom to the top, we can take that off and swap it down to the opposite side if you need it. Okay, let's start off with the deepest area, remember, which is number 5 down here. 1 2 3 1 2 3 sorry 1 2 3 4 5. So level 5 down there. I'm going to use CNC bits just for the lines to get me going around here and around here. What you got to remember is these are all different depths. So number 5 will be the deepest. So we would actually set our CNC bit to that point there. Now that's too much personally. I think it's a lot for in one cut, and that's only for them 2 bits here, one there and one there. So we might have to go over it twice. Then we'll raise it to that one there, the next one up, and do inside this one, remember, because that will be number 4. And then we'll raise it again and go across there, and then number 2 is just to clear out and have a little bit around that bobble there and around the top of the nose. You'll see as we go along, these CNC bits have a Dremel size shaft on them, so you will require a collet, a 6.35mm. That's a 3.175mm Dremel size. That literally just slots in there like that. Now that will for your router, no problem. Once we've done our lines, we'll then start clearing it out from the deepest up to the shallowest. That just gives you more surface to work on. If you start removing all these, then all you're going to left in the centre is a nose to balance on, and it might just get a bit awkward. It's okay if you've got a nice big base on it. Remember, you can rest on either side of this. Okay, let's pop the CNC in bit, do these lines, then once they're done, we'll come back to the end milling bits, nice big one, and we'll start clearing this out, and obviously raising it up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There is bigger bits out there, these flush bits, double-sided, straight metric flush bits, should I say, double-sided blades. They'll whip that out, no problem, but they are quite an aggressive piece, and as we come into these, it could break one of them ends off his beard. So find what you're comfortable with and use that. Okay, let's pop this in the router and we'll start doing these lines first. Okay, hopefully you can see from that we've gone around all the lines, and hopefully we've started off with the deepest one there. I still think that needs to be a little bit deeper, but we'll sort that out when we start clearing this out. And then we ironed the bit up, gone around that one there, ironed it up, gone around underneath there, ironed it up, and then gone that little bit there, and we've even done that little end piece here. You can see the effect we're hopefully going to go for. Now for clearing out bits, like I just said at the start of the video, these straight flush bits are fantastic. This one, you get away with this one, no problem. But I'm just going to start off with the end milling bits, which are these what I use on all my projects, just to see how we get on. What you don't want to do is come in with a big chunky piece like this, start clearing this out, and having that broken off there. Well, that's the end of your project as far as I'm concerned. So we'll pop it back in its little framework for now. We'll set this end milling bit, if I can just find it, this one here. We're going to go for the biggest of the lot, pop that into the adapter like so. Literally just slots in up to that barrier thing, and then we'll set it to our depth. Now this is going to be too deep for these, seriously. That's far too deep, is that? So we'll start off halfway down, clear out the shoe, and then we can lower it and just keep lowering it down till we get to the desired depth. Then obviously we'll raise it up to the next marker, should I say. Remove those two, raise it up to the next one, remove this, raise it up to the last one, which is only 2 or 3 millimeters, and remove the at. And hopefully it should all look like something that we're after. Okay, let's start clearing this one out. Okay, we've done our number 5. That's right down there. There's a good depth to that, as you can see. So now we need to move on to number 4, which will be the body itself. So that's just a simple case of using our little gauge again. We'll place it on there. We'll get our router bit, sit it on top, and you can see from that, that's set nicely at number 4. So now we'll just remove the body sections at either side. Then obviously we'll raise it up to number 3 and then remove the beard. Okay, let's do the body next. Right, that's our level number 4 done. So we've done 5, we've come up slightly, we've done 4. So 5, 4. Now we need to set the router again to number 3. So we've done that already, as you can see. So that just slots in at number 3. And now we'll remove all the beard. Right, that's the beard done. So level 5, level 4, level 3. So we've got level 2, which will be the at itself, right from the tip of that nose, remember, right through to the tip of the little bally thing on the end. So last time for our little gauge thing, so you can see we've set it to the lowest point there, number 1. You'll see that in there nicely. So we've gone all the way from down there right up to the last section. So we'll pop this on now and just remove the part of the hat. Right, that's it. We made it round in one piece. Using the clamp to hold that wood together was definitely a good idea. Now the good thing about cutting it out first is when we come to route this out, we can literally just go up against the edges here and we have no concerns about doing any damage, because all this is going to come off. So even though it looks a bit tatty and torn at the moment, that's only the framework that we're looking at. You could actually route it all out first if you wanted to and then cut it out, but obviously your lines, look how deep that is down there. Of course it gets narrower, higher and higher and higher. That's going to be a little bit awkward to cut out with a scroll saw. So I just prefer to cut it out first, then clamp it in place, or whatever you do to keep it together. You might get away putting a bit of tape at the back just to secure it all a bit more. But anyway, the clamp worked fine for me, so we can remove that now. Hopefully we'll pop him out. And there is our little gnome guy on 5 different levels, which is obviously 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we've got a general shape of what we need. Still a bit rough and tatty looking, remember. This is only just cheap fencing wood. And that's quite light, is that? You could probably hang that on a big tree if you've got one big enough. So for general tidying up, I like to use these Engraving Bits. If you just search Dremel Engraving Bits, they're not Dremel mate, they're just cheap, nasty, made in China specials, but they work brilliant for tidying up. And it's just a case of getting it on the end of a flexi cable like this, nice little end like that, and that's ideal for going round there, just generally tidying up those areas. We'll do that next. Then it's good old sandpaper, just to give it a bit of a smooth down. Then hopefully we'll get onto the painting side of things. Okay, that's enough sanding down for me. Definitely near enough for what we want today. You could have gone crazy and spent a lot of time really working on that beard if you wanted to, but it's not that kind of project. Just nice, simple, fun projects on basically a piece of fencing wood at the end of the day. So painting wise, I'm going to stick with the Christmas theme because it is that time of year. Basically it would be red, red, black and white, and a little wipe on bubble top there for his hat. Now I normally use painted touch tapes, but today just cheap acrylic paints, nothing too fantastic. We'll find a black in there and a nice red, get them all painted on. We'll come back when it's complete and we'll spray on a little bit of protection, a little bit of shine, just to finish it off. Okay, I'll go away and paint this and then we'll come back hopefully when this little project is finished. Okay, that's it. This little project is finished. Now, you've all seen people painting before, so we had nothing to see there. Just slightly watered down the acrylic paint and went over it twice. White's always a terrible colour to use. And we've actually left a bit of wood showing just on his nose, as you can see from that. We've got a nice shine, a little bit of protection on it. That's from our acrylic spray. 3 or 4 coats of that on. Just spray straight on, nothing in between. Remember, it's just rough fencing wood. So basically what you see is what you get. Now I've painted the back of this. Don't ask me why. Just pure boredom, but I went for it. No need to, but it's done now. And there we have him. So one routed out gnome on 5 levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on scrap fencing wood. It stands at 15 inches by, just to say, 6 inches across. And there we go, this little project is finished. Thank you very much for watching.